From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew Arlen, alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Like the same thing every week, buddy. We go to war. That's what small business in America is. We're going to war. And sometimes to stick your head above the crowd, you have to have a very strong brand that resonates with the public. Today we have Max Gerson. I'm gonna take my title and give it to him. He is the professor of branding and brand strategy. Max, welcome to the Liquid Lunch Project. Explain to us what branding and creating a true identity means for a small business.
Matthew, Luigi, thank you so much for being here. And let me just say thank you for this work and how you serve us, other small business owners. We really appreciate your servant leadership, and everyone listening, I think would agree with me there. Branding is not about the shiny stuff. It's not about the cool logo. The cool logo doesn't make you hit your numbers next quarter. The process of being intentional, of listening to your audience, being curious and studying your competition, what this does is it allows you to compete. Because I think about entrepreneurship the same way I think about racing. I'm a very bad mechanic. I'm an old car guy, right? And the whole point isn't to go 1,000 miles an hour. The whole point is just to go 1 mile an hour faster than all the other cars on the racetrack. And so what's true about small business is the same thing that's true about life. Like chess isn't about life, really, because when you start chess, everyone's got the same number of pieces. We're all on a level playing field. It's a bad analogy for how our universe works. So branding, it's about giving a shit, honestly, right? You study your competition, you're curious about your audience, you sit back, you read the whole map, and then you make a plan to go. So it's about being aggressively awake. And as a byproduct, yeah, you get a cool logo. You get great messaging, but that's the least valuable thing that we give our clients. What we really give them is clarity, focus, and a North Star.
Max, sometimes Matt and I like to use case studies because it's always easier to learn through analogy, because you work with so many different brands in so many different sectors, B2B, B2C. You are crushing it in every sector. Let's use a brand that we can all relate to, right? Coca-Cola. What is their brand identity? Let's use them for an example for a minute or two. So this way we could really appreciate what branding is. I mean, is it the athletic nod? Is it the wave on the bottle? Is it that distinguished red look? Is it being on the top shelf at every grocery store? What is their brand?
It's a great question. I'll back up a little bit in my answer and say that we relate to people, Luigi, the same way we relate to brands, which is to say we mostly ignore them, right? And it's not because stuff is bad out there. It's just not for you. If you had to read every ad on your way into the office, every bumper sticker, every piece of marketing in your field of view, you would never make it. So as human beings, I mean, this is particularly true post-pandemic, right? Our latest survival instinct is to ignore other people and brands and things that just aren't for us. It's all just noise. One of my favorite ads of all time, I don't know who made this. It might have been Ogilvy. I want to buy the world a Coke. And I think this was post-Vietnam.
And it had a catchy jingle that went along with it.
Yeah. And that was it. I think the thing that Coca-Cola's done well in a lot of their spots is they're not selling you anything. Right? Be the brand that loves you back. The thing I obsess about in my personal life is mountain biking and gravel biking. Last month, 636 miles in a month. It's a lot.
Nice.
So at the end of these big rides, what's the treat? I mean, eventually I do end up at the bar. Shout out to Niwot Tavern, my local watering hole. But when I'm at the gas station dying, I'm getting a Coke, right? There's no question. So it's happiness. It's a treat. It's a reward. And I'm loyal to Coke. I'm very brand loyal. And sorry, Pepsi, that clear Pepsi in the 90s. No, you lost me there, guys.
Yeah, I'm a big Coke guy too. And Coke seems to saturate the marketplace, right? Especially when it comes to diet. I drink Diet Coke. If they have Diet Pepsi, I'm like, just give me water. It's just like not even worth it, right? But Coke did something interesting, right? Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, they started putting people's names on bottles, right? I think they saw a spike in sales from that. So I guess that was another way for them to connect with people on a basis, or even my daughters were going out buying bottles with their friends' names on it, right? And going over and giving it to them. So that makes a lot of sense to what you're saying and what their brand really is. My question to you is this, right? And me and Luigi have this conversation all the time. You see these big brands that we know that they're in our house constantly. They're in the supermarkets. They're the first shelves that you walk in, right? However, they're still paying for like this billboard on the side of a road. Why? Why do they do that? Like that billboard's not making somebody go buy a Coke at the end of the day.
I mean, the technical strategy here would be position, right? They planted their flag at the top of the hill. They are the brand to beat. So, I talked a little bit a few minutes ago about entrepreneurship as a race, and they're trying to keep these guys behind them. They know that the number two brands are just going to have to spend more to catch up at that level. Bringing this back around to the small to medium-sized business owner, I mean, here's the lesson. Be the brand that loves you back. Show real gratitude to your clients. And to me, that doesn't mean you give them a mug made in China stamped with your logo on it that may or may not spill coffee after having been washed 10 times. If they're a Jewish kid in Cleveland, but they wish they were born in Brooklyn, get them the album, right? Know your audience.
All right, you're not playing fair, man. You know my preference for the Beastie Boys. You're just playing dirty now, man. All right, we like you. That's it. Favorite episode done.
But that's it. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be thoughtful, right? Find real ways to love your clients back the right way.
Max, I love the way you started this conversation because you used racing as a wonderful analogy. And we had this old adage in America: you win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. And that worked for decades, okay? But Matt, me, and the listener of this podcast isn't racing a McLaren or isn't racing a Ferrari, and we don't have a Ford GT, okay? What does winning mean to a client when dealing with a small business? And how can we then translate that into the cash register?
Right. So you can answer this question in one or two ways, depending on what your business model is. So should I speak to B2B or B2C?
B2B.
Okay. So in the world of B2B, most of us are engaged in complex sales. Some of us are aware of that. And what I mean by complex sales is we're running a business model, the mechanics of the model, low volume, high value. I was in automotive for too long. I'm allergic to overhead now. There's no way. I want to sell 10 things a year, not 10,000. Right? So the nature of complex sales to me is selling to the next step. These are relationships you have with people. So if it's your business, if you're thinking about your sales ecosystem and your funnel, what's the first impression that someone's going to get of you? It's probably not your website. That's like the 6th or the 7th date. If you're in complex sales, if you're in B2B, chances are someone is going to tell them. Someone is going to refer them to you. They're going to say, hey, I needed this or that. And someone says, oh, I got a guy. Let me tell you about him. That's the first impression, right? That's where you want to win, right there. If you understand your funnel, if you understand selling to the next steps, then what this does is it can take a lot of pressure off your website, because by the time they get to the website, you just have to be the version of the story they've already heard, right? They hear about you. Maybe they check you out on LinkedIn. Maybe they're looking you up on Instagram. From there, you pull up your browser, you type in the name of the business. Then what do you get? You get your Google My Business listing. Google doesn't want you to leave. There are the reviews. There are the photos. If you haven't taken control of your Google My Business page, you need to do that, right? So how do we win? We win by understanding that there is a structure. There is a step-by-step process. Think about how we buy anything. You know, any type of service like this, if it's not a stick of gum on your way out of the grocery store, and you're going to spend something in the neighborhood of 5, 10, 15, 25, 100, hundreds of thousands of dollars, you're going to talk to some people, right? That's usually where things begin. And it's very far upstream from the marketing we can control down here.
Max, that's very clear. And for businesses that have, let's say, deep roots, that makes a lot of sense. And we appreciate those wonderful takeaways for the people that are in business. But what if there's somebody in the audience that's looking to start a business? I mean, it seems like that starting gun is an abyss. Where do you begin?
Ooh, I might not actually have a good answer to this one. So my company, Brand Wolfe.
Honesty is best, pal.
Brand Wolfe was born out of demand, not intentionality. I was marketing manager, brand manager in automotive for a long time. I left because I love mankind. It's just people I can't stand. And there's a lot of schmucky assholes out there with a lot of money, and I just got sick of it.
No way.
Shocker.
Have you come across any?
Did I?
Not here.
I'll save that for the bar after the show. Brand Wolfe was born out of demand, not intentionality. I wrote a business plan. My accountant looked at it and she started laughing. She's like, "This is not going to work. How's this going to work? You're not going to make any money." And I was beating my head against the wall, and the phone rang. I would say that anecdotally, where my travels have taken me, what I've learned is that more is lost through indecision than wrong decision. People, there's so many of us that are perfectionists, and we create hurdles for ourselves. If I'm not going to do this the perfect way, why even try? But here's the thing. You're closer than you think. You're closer to your goals than you think. And you're right, it might not be perfect, but it's not going to be as wrong as you think either. And just start. We could talk all day about a business plan and a strategy and research, but I think ultimately some part of this is just more human and more intuitive than that. And you just have to understand that part of this is a performance art. Sometimes you just got to lace up your cleats, step into the batter's box, and watch the Guardians blast another home run against the Yankees this afternoon at 1:07 Mountain Time, right? But sometimes you just have to step in the moment and take a risk and be bold and let the strategy catch up later. Be an adult later, but be intuitive, follow your passion, and just start.
You know, most people that start a business, Max, they're starting because they were doing something else, right? They have some type of background, some inkling, some belief that they could do it better than where they're from, or they wanted to be their own boss and they wanted to have their own freedom out there, right? Then there comes a point in time where they're growing and they're not handling the thing that they used to be good at, right? Now they're doing everything. If they own a diner, they're washing the dishes rather than making the food. You know, they're baking the cakes, right? So at what point of the journey do you really start to think about your brand? Because I don't know if it's necessarily right out of the gates. I think it's after you've been in it for a while and you can develop some core values within your business to what you want to stand for and what you want your brand to stand for. What is your thoughts on when you should really start thinking about brand and brand strategy?
Year 3.
Okay.
Of course, that can't be specifically accurate, but here's the thing that I think happens to a lot of us when we start our own small business practice. We do a lot of friend raising. There's a lot of people that love us and they give us business, they give us money, they give us leads, they introduce us, they're very generous. This is all the low-hanging fruit. After that, it gets hard because now you really got to do it. Is
there a certain industry that should be in branding more than a different one, right? Because, a lot of our clients, let's say they're in the construction trade, right? If they're HVAC and they're doing air conditioners, they're just going out and doing air conditioners. You ask them what they do, like, we just do air conditioners and we do it better than the next guy. What are some tips you can give them or some questions they should ask themselves so they can start to develop their own brand strategy?
You guys were encouraging me to tell the truth earlier, right? This is something that men do not do very well to themselves. We can be very truthful to our power partners, our networking partners, our children, our significant others, right? But very often we as men are not telling ourselves the truth about where it hurts. And it's not about a specific industry. It's about the real tension you're having within your business. So, Matthew, maybe here's a different way to think about this answer. The first guy that called me, my good friend Gabe Adams, Blue Water Performance case study is on our website if you want to check it out. But Gabe called me up and he said, "How much for a new website?" And I said, "Why a new website? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, I want to make more money." I said, "Of course. How does a new website do that?" So Blue Water Performance is a European performance shop in Denver, Colorado. Unbelievable what they do. They're not perfect for everyone, and that's kind of the point. They've been in business for 10 years, right? They haven't had to try very hard, right? So it's not 3 years, 10 years for these guys. But Gabe wanted to add Mercedes, he wanted to add BMW, he wanted to add a couple other brands and marks to his mostly Volkswagen Audi shop because he thought more cars, more customers, more money. I disagreed with him pretty strongly. I think ultimately he was right and he won. But what I said to him was, in automotive, that's just liability, man. These are new repair procedures, right? New tools, new vendors. These are new languages and new worlds. To me, it sounds like a recipe for liability, not profitability. Wouldn't it be better if we could just do more of the things we're already good at? And he said, okay, for a little bit. But the real problem, the real tension was he had been in business for 10 years. They've done great. They just attracted the community to them. But now they want to take control of the ship. They want to control the levers. They want to grow the way they want to grow. And the real problem was they didn't know how to have a conversation with their audience. They didn't know why people chose them, right? Brands aren't what we say they are. They're what you say they are. They didn't know what other people were saying, so they couldn't leverage that. So Gabe thought, like many of us do, yo, let me get a new website. They'll figure it out. Like most of us, can I take a pill to solve this problem? Can I write a check and make this go away? And that's what most of us do. And what we're not doing is saying like, hey, I don't have good creative. I don't have any kind of marketing structure. And I've been in business for 10 years and I probably should. And I don't want to say this to anyone on my team, right? But it's true. So really what we did with Blue Water was we just listened to what everyone said about them. Gabe thought I was going to come in and make it like fancy coffee, like the dealership, like this and like that. If you check them out on Instagram, like Axl Rose's younger brother is one of their mechanics. Shout out to Alex England. I love the hair. I'm just jealous. But people love them because they're vaping and smoking cigarettes outside the shop. And when you drop off your car, you can hang out and have a chat with Alex and he's going to be authentic and tell you the truth. And it's kind of like this SoCal speed shop 60s vibe, but in Denver in 2020 and like with German cars. But that same kind of energy, that's why people shop there. So don't change that. These were the things that were just really important to their culture and their brand, but they didn't know.
So how did you reach out to their clients to ask these questions and figure them out?
We conduct qualitative market research interviews. And this is a process that I'm pretty dogmatic about in my thinking. And what I mean is, if we had worked together and I tried to have this conversation with you, Matthew, or Luigi, and praise doesn't move the needle. Telling me I look good doesn't help me to get better tomorrow. Tell me why my shit stinks. I need critical feedback. And it's not that you don't have it. It's not that you refuse to give it to me. You just love me. So it doesn't exist in that conversation. But when someone else shows up, just to be curious and to listen and have them tell you the story, that's how you do it. Would you recommend this business? You would. What would you say to that other person? Like, if you can only ask one question, that's it. And just really pay attention to their motivation, their psychology, their words. Because if you study that, that's what you should be messaging on. That's how you should be selling.
So we just, inside of Shield Advisory Group, our consulting company that we run, we actually just instituted this random client interviews, right? Where we have a list of about 20 questions. We sit there and we ask them. Me and Luigi don't conduct these, but we have an outside person that conducts these for us, and we use it for a multitude of different things, which actually came out very good. First of all, it lets us know where we stand and where we're at, what we can do better, and more importantly, what our clients are looking for, right? But it also allows us to use these Zoom interviews and cut up certain points and use them for marketing on social. So I think that's something we instituted because we've seen a need for it, because we want to go, everybody wants more and more clients, kind of like you were saying earlier. They want to go wider. We want to go deeper. What else do they need? Where else can we fit them? What else can we do rather than just worrying about the next sale? We want to serve our clients better starting out.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to geek out, lifetime customer value, right? If you're not familiar with this term, average customer value, this is what your client is worth to you in 1 year. Lifetime customer value is average customer value multiplied by the number of years that they stay inside your sales ecosystem. Be the brand that loves you back. Keep serving them. Find ways to make sure that you're always in their corner and they always want you to be there.
So Max, we touched on existing companies, we touched on startups. Let's talk about the company that's been around for a while. And maybe it's getting a little long in the tooth, maybe it's getting a little stale, right? You want to freshen things up. The challenge there is you want to be consistent to your brand, but you also want to evolve and maintain that sharpness, that relevance, right? I mean, I'll give you a car analogy because I can see you're a car buff, right? It's what Porsche did with the 929. They almost lost their shirt with the 929 because they alienated their core clientele. They made the car too modern, too slick, and the guy that drives a Porsche wants the vroom. He wants the swoosh. He doesn't want a Mercedes. He wants a Porsche, right? So what do you have in advice for that brand that is 15, 20 years old, and how do you prevent them from being that Coke fiasco from the 80s or the Blockbuster from the 90s?
Luigi, you're really put together. Who cuts your hair?
I've been going to the same barber for 25 years, and I think he's been charging me the same amount for the last 25 years. God bless him.
It's like an old Italian barbershop or something cool like that.
No, he's an old Russian guy. I love him to death.
Okay. I think the same advice you want to give to your barber is the same advice I would give to this hypothetical situation. The point isn't to change. The point is to keep evolving and become more of who we've always been. So if you're at that stage where, look, you're not going to do this if there isn't tension. People come to us and spend money because it hurts somewhere, usually not where they think. But the story you can tell yourself, your team, your clients, the world is we are reinvesting in ourselves. This is not change. This is a process that we are engaging in to learn more about who we are, who you are, how to better serve you, so that we can become more of who we've always been, right? This is an overwhelmingly positive experience for the brand and for the team. And it should be a gift to your team, right? If your staff is having a lot of problems with management, right? When people behave badly, you either permit it or you promote it. It's a great time to stop digging if you find yourself in a ditch. Take a break, climb a mountain, and read more of the map, and then decide where you want to go and how.
So Max, where is Brand Wolfe going? You've been in business for a while. You're crushing it. What's next up for Brand Wolfe?
Where's Brand Wolfe evolving to?
Well, I'll tell you, being very transparent, my business goals aren't about a big number for me or a huge team or growth. For me, it's about balance. I have a very specific take-home number on 20 hours a week. So that's it for me. Where we're going right now is, I'll tell you the hard part about what we do is like, man, it can take a while. It's hard. It's very academic. It's very research-based, right? We don't pick up the pen and the pencil until the end, but we've been developing some new products that kind of solve for that and get people the help they need much, much quicker. So the first product I'm excited to tell you about is called Brand Therapy. I'm a big therapy guy. Brand therapy is no different than regular therapy. Why you go to a therapist? You're not happy, you're upset, something's going on. You don't know what to do differently. Business and life are the same for me. Business outcomes, to me, I equate directly to behavioral change. If you want your business to change, you have to change as the entrepreneur. You have to be a chameleon, and you got to be able to change, not all the time, but when you need to. So people go to therapy because they want to change. It hurts somewhere, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how. So brand therapy is the same way. People come to us, and a lot of times they're thinking of going sprinting off in the wrong direction.
I love that name, by the way.
Brand therapy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's great. I mean, just
so simple, but so nice.
Simplify. Yeah. Well, and you know what you're getting. You're getting time to talk with me and not a whole lot else. But people have these instincts, and they know they're going to go sprinting off in the wrong direction, and something's holding them back, right? So people come and it's 10 hours, it's $4,000, it's a very low commitment, but the goal is to help get them to the starting line. They know they're not at the starting line today. They've got a plan, they're ready to do this, but let's help you make sure you're at the starting line for the right race, the one you should be running.
You know, how does that, a lot of entrepreneurs that we're around, a lot of business owners, they're go, 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 go. Nothing's ever moving fast enough, right? So how do you deal with an entrepreneur like that when they come to you and just tell them that they're not the right fit for you? They need to sit back, relax, and think about things. How do you handle that?
Direction is way more important than speed. They have to be willing to be willing. They have to be willing to let us in, tell us the truth, tell themselves the truth. You look, this in racing too, you got to slow down to go fast. You know, you got to be settled before the corner. And a lot of times when people say that, they're like a fish who's not wet. They don't know they're racing. They need a fuel strategy.
You got the best analogies I think we've ever had on the podcast. I'm just going to say that.
I get paid for analogies. Okay.
Listen back.
This is not going to be an episode. It's going to be a Formula One Netflix special.
Hey,
This is therapy right here.
Don't threaten me with a good time, Luigi.
Hey, Max, we want to be respectful of your time. We really appreciate you, man. Can you tell everybody where they should find you and find Brand Wolfe?
Yeah, check out the website. We just redid some of our own branding coming out of the pandemic because we hit our number and we celebrated with our own brand. So go to brandwolfe.com, BRANDWOLFE.com. Check out our About page. I'm super proud of it. We've got some really cool artwork. We've got a story about an older member of our family. Our values mean a lot to us. Also really proud of our case studies, but we're here to help. If you're in pain, if you're having some tension and you're not sure where, send us a message. Love to have a chat.
Yeah, you guys got to go to their story page, The Giver, The Solver, which, you know, I love this one. Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction. Give, solve,
protect.
I love
Words
that.
of wisdom from Brand Wolfe.
Matthew and Luigi, again, I can't say thank you enough. All of us are so grateful that you're out here doing this work to serve our interests, our curiosity, our need. This is true servant leadership. And I'm very honored to be your guest today. Thank you so much.
Oh, shucks.
We appreciate you being here, but Max, you're not getting off that easy. Before I let you run, give the audience and all the small business owners and entrepreneurs out there listening one question they should be asking themselves right now about their brand.
The question they should be asking themselves about their brand.
And the wind up.
Oh man, this is tough. The thing I want your audience to be curious about isn't if people are referring them. I want them to be curious about what they are saying in those referrals. Being curious about that one question can unlock so much strategy, tactics, and creative and growth in your business. Stay curious about what other people say when they talk about you, because your brand isn't what you say, it's what they say.
And that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.